Our story begins with the Demon King, one of the 72 demons tasked with destroying the human world. Only those who pass the great test of the Demon King Astrea can earn this title. Each Demon King is granted a special power by the great Demon King Astrea. The story follows a young man sitting next to a woman. He mentions that he is no exception. The boy then asks Lilith what power was granted to him, and she replies that it's called Gacha. We discover that the boy is actually the Demon King Karis. He then says, well, Gacha is Gacha, right? And starts yelling, questioning the point of a Demon King having such a power that doesn't offer immense strength, the ability to control elements, or infinite knowledge. Lilith asks him to calm down, but Karis continues shouting, reminding her that since the dawn of time, even before humans, he has been a Demon King, but his power is just a Gacha. He even comments on how embarrassing it would be to face a hero with such a power. Lilith tries to comfort him, saying he could hire heroes as influencers and get rich. Karis asks if there's any way to change or add a new power, but Lilith says it's not possible. Desperate, he starts crying, questioning how he can rule the world with a gacha. Lilith kindly reminds him not to speak ill of the Demon King, and Karis reluctantly agrees, remembering that if he speaks ill again, he might die. He questions why the other Demon Kings received normal powers while he got a gacha. Lilith explains that the great Demon King became addicted to a human game and gave Karis this power because of it. Lilith tries to console Karis, telling him to try using his power. He agrees, and she activates his new power. Around him, several shiny golden boxes appear. He asks if this is his new power, and Lilith tells him he needs to open the boxes. Karis expects magical abilities or a dragon, but the first box reveals only a cute green slime. Disappointed, he keeps opening the boxes, which only produce more slime. Lilith, in disbelief, says there's still one random box left and asks him to open it, hoping something good will come out. Karis opens the box, and his eyes light up seeing something different inside. Suddenly, out pops a succubus. And, my friends, upon seeing this, Karis gets furious and says she's just a young succubus who hasn't even had her coming of age ceremony yet. Lilith, with the biggest cheek, responds, well, congratulations, at least it's not a slime, right? Karis, shouting, asks if she thinks he worked his whole life at the academy for this, and Lilith responds that the power has already been granted, so it can't be changed, and he must adapt to his new ability. Karis, smiling, says there's no other way. He states that demons are creatures who constantly fight, always striving to be the strongest. He orders Lilith to open the gate immediately, saying, I'm going to face the great Demon King myself. The scene shifts to the demon world, a place full of death, darkness, and shadows. Karis and Lilith stand in front of the office of the Demon King Astrea. Suddenly, a huge explosion happens behind Karis, and when he looks back, a girl appears and says, Karis, we finally meet. Karis replies that he hoped they wouldn't meet. The girl starts conjuring a power to attack Karis, and he, desperate, asks her not to do it there. She responds, shut up. With what you did, even if I turn you to dust, it won't be enough. Karis gets scared, realizing this is a problem. He comments that temper is the same as always, while the girl continues to conjure more power. The creatures around become desperate, and the woman shouts that the Demon Kings will fight. She unleashes an electric attack on everyone present. Lilith, trying to protect Karis, uses a chair to attack the girl, but before it hits, the chair gets electrocuted and destroyed. Lilith charges at the girl, asking her to calm down since it's a sacred place where everyone was waiting to meet the great Demon King. The girl, however, advances on Lilith, saying that if she kills Karis, everything will be resolved. Lilith gets hit hard and thrown away, but stands up with a purple and black aura, saying, I am the secretary in the service of the Demon King Karis. If Lord Karis gets hurt, the reason for my existence disappears. So, I must protect him with my life. The other girl asks, is that so? Then I'll have to kill you both together. Karis intervenes, asking for calm and saying, I know you have something against me, but let's not do this here, for God's sake. Okay? The great Demon King will punish us if we disobey. The girl tells him to shut up, stating that she will kill him even if she is punished by the great Demon King. Karis thinks, if I fight her now, I'll definitely lose. While Batija fights with Lilith, Karis is depressed, thinking about the situation. Even being a Demon King, losing to that girl would be a disgrace. Lilith asks who the hell that girl is, and she responds, I am the regent who reigns over more than a tenth of the earthly realm, Batija Confretia. Lilith then says, Batija Confretia? So you're one of the 4 regents. It is said that there are a total of 72 Demon Kings, but more than half the world is governed by just 4. The Demon King of Despair and Pain, Capiria Bordos, the Demon King of Desolation and Sorrow, Rubernia Malmos, the Demon King of Joy and Madness, Satracross, and, of course, the Demon King of Screams and Wrath, Batija Confretia. Lilith says, seeing one of the 4 Demon Kings I've heard rumors about in person is my luck. I have to escape this time. Batija launches a powerful attack towards Lilith, but Karis steps in front of her, and as Batija's attack hit Karis's back, the attack is undone, leaving Batija and Lilith astonished. Lilith wonders if it was a magical illusion. Batija, very angry, asks Karis how he is still alive after the attack. Karis responds that he is as curious as she is. Lilith says that the magical illusion is a skill that the great great Demon King had a long time ago. She wonders why Karis has this power. Suddenly, my friends, the door opens, and it's actually the Demon King stepping out. He says he heard a loud noise in the waiting room and decided to check it out since it seemed way more interesting than staying in that boring room he was in. Guys, I don't know about you, but look at how dopey this Demon King looked. But hey, appearances can be deceiving because this guy isn't just any Demon King, he's the great Demon King. Just his appearance leaves Batija and Karis in shock, and they start laughing nervously. The scene then shifts, and Karis and Batija are sitting in front of the Demon King at a table. The great Demon King says, well, first of all, why are you here to see me? Our protagonist replies, Great Demon King, no matter how much I think about it, I believe there's a problem with my power. The Demon King asks, a problem? Then tell me what it is. Batija, casually sipping her wine, thinks, as expected, this guy is nuts. Our protagonist continues, so far, I've defeated many Demon Kings, but in my entire life, I've never seen a Demon King whose power was gacha. When Batija hears this, my friends, she starts laughing at the protagonist and even spits out her wine. Embarrassed, the protagonist says, well, that's the typical reaction when I tell people about my power. Karis goes on to say that his power isn't great for instilling fear. The process to obtain a random box is very complicated and the odds are very erratic. The Demon King then says, so you really want to change your power, don't you? Karis replies that he does. The great Demon King places his glass on the table and says, well, in that case, I refuse. Karis, indignant, asks why he's doing this and why he doesn't want to change his power. The Demon King, mockingly, replies, my friend, it's because I'm bored right now, so I think it would be very entertaining to watch you play some gacha. Karis stands up in a rage and asks, how can you give me this ability just for fun? The great Demon King interrupts Karis's tantrum and says, however, I can give you something else. Karis asks, something else? Batija even goes silent, focusing on what he's going to say. The great Demon King says, the Demon King of screams and wrath, Batija Confretia. She quickly stands up, startled, and responds, yes. And the Demon King continues, you dishonored me right in front of my office, and I didn't give you this ability just to use it this way. He creates a tornado around her that traps her and lifts her into the air. Desperate, she can only apologize, saying she's sorry. The Demon King places a shadowy hand on Batija's neck and says she deserves to die for what she did before. She begs for mercy, pleading with him not to kill her. The Demon King throws her to the ground with force and says that from now on, he strips her of the title of Demon King. The great Demon King says, your position will be assumed by another substitute, and from now on, you will become a subordinate of King Karis, the Demon King of madness and greed. So, follow his orders. Both Karis and Batija are incredulous at what the Demon King is saying. Before either of them can complain, the Demon King simply says, well, I assume neither of you has any complaints, right? Both shout, asking what he's talking about. The scene then shifts to Karis sleeping. The guy is even drooling. Suddenly, Karis wakes up startled, and Batija is there with a grumpy look on her face. Karis says, oh my god, I can't believe everything that happened in my life was real. Batija kicks him, asking what he means by that and saying there's no way she could accept this kind of thing. Lilith comes up behind her, holding her, and tells her to calm down a bit. Batija keeps saying she can't accept this at all. Karis thinks, oh my god, this girl still holds a grudge against me. She then calms down, sits, and asks, how can we live together? Lilith responds, well, all I know is that we can't overturn the great Demon King's decision. So, my friends, you'll have to put up with each other, even if you pull each other's hair out. Lilith then says, oh, Lord Batija, why don't you go ahead and choose your room, since from now on, we all have to live together. Thus, Lilith begins a tour to show Batija around. She points to the first location, which is the living room and also the Demon King's office, and his bedroom is connected below hers. She also shows the attic, which is used by the slimes and the succubus that was born from the box. When the succubus sees the Demon King, she runs over, all happy, and jumps on him. Lilith, somewhat annoyed, says, well, it looks like the succubus finally woke up, and our protagonist is like, oh my god, why is she acting like this all of a sudden? Lilith explains that all the monsters from the gacha are subservient. Karis says, oh, so that's why they cling to me like this, huh? At this moment, he asks, what abilities do they have then, and gives a kick to the poor slime. Poor thing! The succubus, who was on his back eating his hair, don't ask why she was doing that, responds that they don't have any power. Karis says he understands, and then gets angry, ordering the succubus to stop biting his hair. Karis quickly changes his expression and says, oh, right, I remembered something. Didn't you say you would obey me? And he's talking to Batija. The scene shifts to outside the Demon King Karis's castle, and we see that there's a sort of barrier around the castle. Back inside the castle, Karis asks, by the way, what is she doing now? She's been very quiet for a week. Lilith responds, well, if you're talking about Miss Batija, don't worry about her. She's having a lot of fun playing with the slime and the succubus. Karis, in disbelief, says, well, I put up with it because it was a nuisance, but surprisingly they got along very well. He thinks, oh my god, their mental ages are similar. Karis says, well, whatever. So, what's my current situation? Lilith responds, we've installed double barriers barriers, so there's no risk of being discovered by the villagers for now. Karis says that's a relief and explains that currently there are about 72 Demon Kings. However, that's only on the surface, as about 30% of them have been eliminated by curious human adventurers. Karis says, at first, I had to completely hide the Demon King's castle, but now it's time to go out and increase my power a bit. We need to hunt some monsters. So, Lilith, tell me more about the nearest monster inhabitant. Lilith responds that there are 4 in total near them. The closest is a goblin camp with an estimated 300 goblins. A bit further is the domain of the orcs, with an estimated 500 orcs in total. In the nearest forest, there's an ogre cave, but there's only one ogre in it, and it's hibernating. Curious, Karis asks about the last location. Lilith responds, well, the last one is shrouded in mystery. There's something in that forest, but we haven't identified what it is yet. Lilith then asks the Demon King which location they should go to. Our protagonist thinks for a bit, then stands up and shouts that they should start with the goblin habitat. Lilith, not understanding why he's shouting, just agrees. However, she remembers they also had a mission. Karis, a bit confused, asks, wait, a mission? Lilith then explains, well, if you successfully conquer the goblin habitat, you'll receive 2 random boxes as a reward. The protagonist gets excited and says, oh, really? Well, maybe I'll get something good this time and not just a bunch of walking slime and a succubus from the dust. The scene changes, and the two are alone in the middle of some bushes. Batija, arrogantly, says, I, the great Batija, who once ruled a tenth of the continent, now fighting mere goblins as a subordinate. The protagonist tells her to shut up, stop talking nonsense, and follow him. Batija says, well, I'll handle this. You won't even have time to play, you idiot Demon King. She runs off like a cartoon character, and the protagonist tries to stop her, telling her not to run ahead, but it's too late, she's already gone. They reach the entrance of the goblin camp. The goblins are appeased, as if they want nothing. Karis comments, there are more goblins here than we expected. He asks Batija what they should do, but when he looks back, she's gone. When he looks forward, Batija is standing arrogantly in front of the goblins, saying, hey, you stinking goblins, I am the former Demon King Batija Confretia, and I command you, bow down and swear loyalty to Demon King Karis immediately. Oh, and if you want, you can kiss my feet. The protagonists think, oh my god, this girl is insane. What have I gotten myself into? Suddenly, goblins start appearing from all sides. He says, oh my god, this is going to be bad. There must be at least 500 of these little monsters. Suddenly, a goblin that seems to be their leader appears, all stylish, and the protagonists think, what am I going to do now? Why did this lunatic start yelling like that? To everyone's surprise, the goblin leader kneels and swears loyalty to Karis. Even the protagonist can't believe what's happening. All the other goblins bow and swear loyalty as well. Batija says, wise choice. The protagonists think, is it really this easy to do? The scene changes, and the goblins are treating Karis and Batija like royalty. They're sitting at a table, eating a feast served by the goblin. The protagonist whispers to Batija, hey, these goblins didn't submit easily. I think they're craftier than we expected. They must have poisoned all this so they wouldn't have to fight and no one would die. Suddenly, a goblin brings them a platter of fruit. Batija finds everything normal, saying it's natural for them to submit to her grand power. The goblin leader says, master, please come with me. I'll show you the village. Batija gets up with her wine glass, feeling all powerful, and says, alright, lead the way. The protagonist, somewhat doubtful, says, well, whatever, I doubt anything will happen. They walk through the camp, and the protagonist comment, well, this camp is quite large. Considering its size, it must be considered a high-level monster camp. However, he finds something very strange. Part of the wall is completely broken. He asks the goblin leader, hey, chief, what's that? The leader starts sweating and replies, oh, that's nothing. An ogre broke through there, but we've already subdued him. The protagonist thinks, they subdued an ogre? There's a huge power difference between a goblin and an ogre. Even 500 goblins aren't enough to deal with a single ogre. Suddenly, he realizes what's happening and shouts, Batija, for God's sake, throw that away now. She responds, but I already drank it all. Suddenly, several goblins with spears appear behind them. The protagonist says, Batija, something is definitely wrong with these goblins. Use your magic now to clear them all out. Batija responds, leave it to me. However, when she tries to cast her magic, nothing happens. She's like, what? Why didn't it work? Where's my magic power? Why did it disappear? Even the protagonist is outraged, realizing she really has no power. At this moment, the goblins waste no time and advance on them. Both of them, together, say, oh my god, we're screwed. I told you, these goblins are too cunning. The scene then changes to a completely dark cave with some dripping water. One of the drops falls on Batija's head, and she wakes up, wondering where they are. The protagonist says, Batija, this is useless. She notices that the protagonist is tied up with her. He continues, now you understand what happens when you stubbornly insist on your way, don't you? Suddenly, several goblins with weapons, torches, and staffs appear. Batija asks, hey, Karis, they're really going to hit us, aren't they? And he responds, well, I think so. Batija gets angry and says that if she had her magic powers, they'd all be flying by now. The protagonist says, well, that's the point, Batija. Batija. Goblins think in a very simple way, so there's no way they planned all this so intricately. So, I'm sure it's another Demon King behind this. Batija asks, another Demon King? But who would that be? The protagonist replies, well, there are possible suspects. Besides, even if Lilith had noticed, it would be impossible for her to come here alone. Batija asks what they should do now, and he says, well, for now, we can only watch. The goblin leader is boasting about having captured the Demon Kings. Batija says, just wait, you'll see what I'll do to you. The scene changes, showing time passing, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Batija says, hey, why did you do this to me? The protagonist asks, what are you talking about? Batija responds, why are you pretending not to know? I'm talking about what happened at the academy. Why did you bully me? The protagonist says, but I never bullied you. What are you talking about? She says, you spread rumors about me. The protagonist asks, what rumors? I don't understand. Batija loses her patience, yelling at him not to act stupid, saying he knows exactly what she's talking about. She continues, Karis, it was you who spread the rumors about me being the daughter of a brothel owner when we were at the academy. I thought you were my friend. Why did you betray me by spreading those rumors? You knew that was a very difficult time in my life. The protagonist very calmly says, well, I'm sorry, but this is the first time I'm hearing about this. Suddenly, he smiles and says, oh, I understand now. But just as they're starting to understand each other, the goblin leader appears and says, Demon King Karis, bring him here. The goblins grab Karis and take him away. Batija asks, why are you only taking him and not me? The goblin responds, it is the master's will. The scene changes to the goblin saying, greet our master. It turns out to be a crystal ball, and inside it, a voice says, hello, Karis, it's been a while, hasn't it? Just from the voice, the protagonist recognizes that it's Borkin Barilov, the Demon King of betrayal and deceit. She, smiling, says, oh, how did you figure it out? The protagonist, smiling, asks, okay, what do you want from me? I'm sure it's something you've been after since you got here, right? She replies, basically nothing, just persuade Batija, your subordinate, and send her to me. The protagonist is surprised, and she continues, my goal is to get rid of Satracross. He is currently beyond my territory, which is very important. Satracross is one of the 4 powerful rulers, and it would be impossible for me to face him alone. But it would be enough if I had Batija by my side, as she is famous for being strong and loyal. The protagonist says, Batija is currently my subordinate, and she may have lost the power she had as a Demon King. Borkinia Barsalov responds, yes, but her influence remains. However, if we rely solely on Batija's influence, her territory will fall apart, and in the end, her subordinates will lose confidence in her and abandon her. So, what do you think, Karis? You won't lose anything from this. If you do me this favor, I will give you as many monsters as you want. Moreover, when Batija loses all her influence, she will remain quiet and stay as your subordinate forever. So, what do you think of this proposal? The protagonist responds, well, Borkinia, unfortunately, I will have to reject your offer. Batija is surprised by the protagonist's response and asks why. The protagonist replies, well, I have a few principles that I follow, and one of them is to protect all my subordinates, no matter who they are. Besides, when achieving something, I prefer to do it with my own strength rather than resorting to despicable acts like yours. After hearing about the dirty rumors about Batija, I definitely can't accept your suggestion. And how could you spread the rumor that Batija is the daughter of a dirty brothel owner and even incriminate me, causing Batija and me to drift apart? Borkinia Barsalov responds, that's enough. The past doesn't matter. I even understand your intentions, Demon King Karis. So you choose to die in the goblin cave? The sphere begins to emanate a very malevolent aura, and she orders the goblins to kill the Demon King. The goblin leader says he will take care of it. When the situation seems completely lost, the protagonist says, well, I think you forgot one thing, Borkinia. You forgot about my power as a Demon King. He pulls out an angry slime from inside his cape and says, so come on, you lazy bums. He throws several slimes towards the goblin leader. We have a flashback where the protagonist is talking to Lilith. He asks, Lilith, are you telling me these slimes are completely useless? And she responds, well, theoretically, yes, Demon King, but these slimes have the ability to reduce volume. The protagonist says, oh, so I guess they can fit in my pocket. Suddenly, all the slimes on the table squeeze into the protagonist's pocket. He feels a bit embarrassed, but when he looks at his pocket, they're all there, quietly, with angry yet cute faces. Back to the present, the slime completely covers the goblin leader, and the protagonist laughs, saying, so, how do you like the taste of my slimes? Huh? The goblin, crying, begs, please don't kill me, Master Karis. I will serve you as my master. Then, someone appears behind the protagonist with a staff and says, you pathetic goblin, I will kill you. The protagonist responds, relationships formed by threats are rather fragile, don't you think? The woman replies, don't be ridiculous. There are still countless goblins. The protagonist says, well, will things really go as you planned? She orders the goblins, your master commands you, and right now, I said to kill them. The woman says, to use the goblins, you need to understand their nature. They only listen to their representative, the village chief, and the chief is now on my side. The protagonist turns to the goblin and says, that's not right, is it? The goblin, covered in slimes, responds, just gives an awkward smile. The protagonist says, so, Chief, take me to the antidote. The goblin simply guides him. Meanwhile, the woman with purple hair is observing everything through a crystal ball. The sphere even cracks due to the tension. At the beginning, we see Batija tied up inside a cave, wondering if that guy was really dead. She recalls the protagonist saying, well, I'm sorry, but this is the first time I've heard of this. Smiling, she thinks he was lying. The scene shifts to the city of Pantan, a village known for collecting garbage. Batija says, well, I was born in that filthy place. I was born the daughter of a low-class prostitute, and that's how my mother made money. This happened almost every day of our lives. We were very poor, but oddly enough, we were happier than anyone else. As she grew up, something terrible happened. The scene shows Batija returning home, horrified to see a group of men surrounding her mother on the ground, all holding pieces of wood. The scene shows Batija on the ground, seeing her mother dead. She continues, that day, my only family, my mother, died. Those men said, wow, she even has a pretty face, doesn't she? Should we have some fun before selling her? Why not? Batija continues the story, saying, that's when it all started. That's when I discovered I had magical powers. I unleashed a power so strong it nearly disintegrated the entire city. They say someone with my power only appears once every 10 years. That's when my name became Batija Confretia. A noble family apparently adopted the girl. The man said, you will become my adopted daughter and attend the academy. The scene changes to Batija in her school uniform at the academy. She hears girls saying, so you're the adopted daughter of the Confretia family, right? Let's have some fun with you from now on, in a mocking tone. Despite the mockery, people still treated her much better than in her previous life. She reflects, with just a title from a prestigious family, everyone's attitude towards me changed completely, except for one person. A boy who wasn't from a prestigious family and rose through life on his own. It shows the two of them talking, and he asks, hey, why are you always looking for a fight? She responds, why are you so ugly? And it says, that's how I met Karis, and we became true friends, or at least that's what I thought at the time. The scene shows some people commenting, she's from Pantan, right? Relax, she's just a daughter of a low-class prostitute, nothing more. When Batija was starting to break down, a girl grabs her wrist. It was Borkinia. Borkinia asks, are you okay? It seems like Karis is spreading rumors. Batija is outraged, realizing that her best friend, Karis, had spread those stories. Batija confronts Karis, asking, was it really you who did this to me? Karis asks, what are you talking about? It says, she's talking about the magic rampage incident. Karis responds, why ask now? Of course, it was. Back in the present, Batija laughs and says, wow, you're going to die soon anyway, so why are you reminiscing about your past? She realizes someone is in front of her and says, oh, so you're here? Why don't you just kill me already, you damn bastard? The protagonist says, well, don't say such harsh words. She wonders how the protagonist managed to do all that, and he responds, well, there are some ways. The protagonist begins to untie Batija and says, oh, by the way, those rumors were spread by Borkinia. Batija asks, what? What are you talking about? He responds, the source of those strange rumors wasn't me, it was her. Batija grabs the antidote vial and starts crying, thinking about the whole situation. The protagonist holds Batija's hand to help her up and says, well, now we have no more misunderstandings, right? So let's go back to the Demon King's castle.